it is quite clear that we are somehow behind in as far as our ICT is concerned. So we will just have to quicken our process and everything in it, in terms of settling in terms of adjusting to class attendance, in terms of how we take our revision and everything that involves ICT. So to brief you, ICT is one of the easiest papers to sit for or even to tackle. It's very easy for you to just score a good grade, like a distinction. And it's also very, very easy to fail or to differ with the examiner, and then you find yourself with a refer or with a mandatory to receive the paper. Reason being some of the things that we are going to highlight. If we want to pass, of course, it will take our seriousness as far as investing, the way you've invested in financials, the way you've invested in so many things, the same way you need just a little bit of your time. In less than 3 months, those are just 12 weeks of attendance. That is only twice in a week. And then you are done with acquiring your knowledge, and then you are ready for the exam. But of course, it will also take your discipline in terms of taking time to understand. As far as you are following online, maybe you also need to take your time to understand the concept. Where you do not understand, you need to ask questions. And of course, discipline comes with your own sacrifice in terms of revising the handouts that we normally assist you with. Here in class, we try as much as possible. And again, because of time, we try as much as possible to cover the course outline. At the same time, we also, as far as this forum is concerned, it's theory, it's a lot. We also try and break down and summarize as many questions as possible. And as time allows us again, we also add to some block revision that is towards the very last days of the of the semester. So as far as this paper is concerned, it's a very wonderful kind of assessment, or kind of a paper to sit for to begin with. And I've told you it's very easy. All you need to bring on board is just the ability and the willingness to understand. We don't cram. I won't tell you to pick the handouts and cram everything. I will have just wasted you. I would rather wish for you to understand, because that which you've understood, you can apply it elsewhere, or you can apply it in depth in terms of mastering how to tackle the questions. So what is ICT bringing on, forth in terms of the syllabus? It's very wide, with around 11 to 12 topics. All of them comes in form of theory, but I will tell you this. From its definition, information, communication, technology, or what you are simply abbreviating as ICT, is somehow technical kind of a field, somehow, as by your level, it is somehow, that's the word we can use. It is somehow technical, and with that nature, you are supposed to sit for theory questions. So that tells us we must bring on board the technical understanding for ICT in order for us to tackle our theory papers. Our theory exam. I've also witnessed scenarios whereby they are kind of testing some technical details which you will be required to explain as if you are doing it on a practical basis. So as I always advise students from day one, as long as you are tackling ICT, don't rely on the theory alone. You also need to do what? To do practice. And it's very easy because nowadays we have micro machines with us. Those are the mobile devices that you always use, and they are mostly kind of advanced generation in terms of computers. So as long as you know how to interact with your smartphones, then it won't be challenging for you to have that technical concept that is needed for ICT. So once you join, you mute yourself kindly because we need to have a quiet or a session which I'm the only person who is moderating. Later on, as we advance, I will be welcoming you to even unmute yourself, talk to us, or ask questions or say something. So let's look at the introduction very fast. As I've said too, this is Rabah who is joined us. We are quite limited in terms of time because you only have October, which is next week. And then you have November, and then December, you are out to sit for the paper. That means we have around 9 weeks, only 9 weeks, 2 months plus to sit and revisit everything. So as I've said before he or she joined, we have around 11 topics. Number one, we shall be looking at just theoretical introduction to ICT. That is understanding where we are in this field, in terms of the distinctions of hardwares and the softwares, the roles of different machines, the ICT environment we shall also look at, the impacts, overall impact of ICT in various industries or various sectors across or out there in the market. Then chapter number 2, and when I'm highlighting these chapters or these topics, I will be putting an emphasis on the topics that have been adjusted in the new syllabus. Remember, what today we are calling ICT, we used to have that particular kind of a paper in the old syllabus, but that was done at level 2, or those who were sitting for CPA 2 and so forth. But that time it was in ICT. It was known as Management Information Systems. I think you will be the 4th or the 5th in terms of the exams. I will check to sit for the new syllabus. So when we highlight a topic, we will just simplify. Has it been there or it is new? That tells you if it's a newly introduced topic, there is a lot to explore in that particular kind of a topic. So from day one, we start picking out some of the sensitive areas that we may come across ICT or in this particular kind of unit. So topic number 1, obviously, it's all about introduction. The same introduction was even there when we were doing the old syllabus. So it is just slightly bit different, but not so much has changed as far as this topic 1 is concerned. Topic 2, we will be doing the overview of the operating system. Topic number 1 is introduction. Then number 2, we have the overview of the operating system. Let me say this, with this topic 2, what is an operating system? Earlier on, we used to have this as a branch of the system softwares, but you find today it's a topic on its own. That has never been there in the previous syllabuses or even the last edited syllabus. So this is a newly introduced syllabus, and what we do, we just put an asterisk. We are telling ourselves, we must understand. I don't know if you are able to read the board because I'm somehow strained in terms of the ink. But anyway, we shall survive. So topic number 2, we said we highlight. It's newly introduced. We have to be serious. Then we have topic number 3. This is the application. Has to deal with application programs. Topic number 3 deals with application programs. What are these again? Application programs by far and large, they are also an extension of the system, of the softwares, this time falling under the different types of system softwares. And as far as we are concerned, we have been given around 4. We have to go through MS Word, we have to go through spreadsheets, we have to go through one publishing software, we have to go through one or few accounting packages. That's to tell us, again, put an asterisk, it's newly introduced as far as this syllabus is concerned. Then we have topic number 4. This deals with computer networks. We will be doing networking, computer networks, and let me emphasize on this and also highlight this from today. Networking has been there even the time ourselves were sitting for exams, those days back then. And even nowadays, it is still there. If you go to other maybe programs, you will also, or maybe other types of exams, you will also find something to do with networking. Just a moment. Sorry for that. Let's resume. What was I saying? Computer networks. We are highlighting that this has been there and it's also still being retained. So that tells you it is also a sensitive area. You don't have to ignore it. It's very wide. It has a lot of knots. We need to pull our socks so that we can be able to tackle everything. Number 5, we have a very interesting topic that is on computer internet. Very short and very brief and straight to the point. It's all about understanding the concept of internet, the usability, and the many products that we are able to get out of the internet. So I'm expecting by the time we are tackling this one, at least you have 2 or 3 examples of products or maybe platforms that have been able to run or being initiated through the internet. Then number 6, we will be tackling data security. Data security, this is very paramount and again, a very key topic which throughout the season has been used like, I can say a companion, because it can blend with any type of a question from all other questions, other topics, because this is all about security. Here we will be not only looking about the data as a resource to protect, but we shall also be understanding the applicability of all the security mechanisms to protect the technology. What is the technology? Technology is all about what we are utilizing to make or to come up with one single term ICT. So we've moved to topic number 7. Number 7, quite involving, wide, quite applicable and highly tested kind of a topic. This is all about, I will just use the term ISE, information systems in an enterprise. Finally, let's mute ourselves This is all about information systems in an enterprise. That is your topic number 7. What shall it present to us? Information systems in an enterprise is a topic that will deep test your understanding in terms of practical applicability of information systems in and out of organizations. You don't limit yourself to the term enterprise. It's all about information systems applicability in and out of our organizations. And again, at that particular point, we are going to break down the systems according to either what we call sometimes the constituent perspective, and then we also have the structural perspective. That is looking at the system from its structure and also looking at system from its own function. Structure, we look at the systems on their own, their resources, what has been used to construct them, if I were to use the simplest terms. And then, of course, we have to look at information systems again from the functions, or taking them to users, or utilizing them in various groups within various types of organizations. Simply understand the word functional perspective. And then, of course, after topic number 7, we have a very interesting and easy topic. That is number 8. We shall be looking at e-commerce, electronic business, electronic commerce. Why e-commerce at our age or at this point in time is because the radical changes that have been brought about in businesses through the utilization of technology, it has resulted to wonderful products like the way we are now having e-business. And we have to understand it. We have to come in and out for us to know what it has in terms of marketing, in terms of benefits, in terms of platforms, in terms of all the softwares and the various products that are also lying within that particular kind of a concept. Then number 9, we shall be looking at mobile applications. Mobile applications is a very smart topic, simply tackling on device or all the portable devices and how we reach them and utilize them in our daily routines, in our daily business, in our overall interaction with technological life. And then topic number 10, hope you can be able to see topic number 10. Next time, I will be very much equipped with nice pens that can really write like the way we have point number 1. So topic number 10 is quite involving, quite intensive, and also it carries a lot of marks. When it comes to the past questions, you can browse through, you will be able to see how each and every topic is featuring in and out. To our particular sections, or instances, we have like a single topic dominating close to 3, 4, 5 questions, 3, 4 questions, 3, 4 questions. So that tells you in every topic we have to press the button so well. So SDLC is all about systems development life cycle. It's like we are being tasked to undergo a technical initiation process to the final point of coming up with a system or coming up with a program. Yet it requires you to tackle, this one requires you to bring on the understanding of programmers or what the system developers actually do when they are out there in the field. And then of course, after SDLC, we shall be looking at topic number 11, where we talk about the ethical, legal, and social issues in technology. Ethical, legal, and the social issues in ICT or information systems. So overall, you can see what we have, around 11 good topics. And of course, overall, in this field, you should also be able to come up with what we call emerging issues. Because I believe you will be exiting from this corner of CPS, maybe to advanced programs, and maybe you will be tackling research work. And when you are doing such things, what you are normally dealing with is practical issues on the ground. So even with us here, as far as ICT is concerned, we should also have a conclusion overview on the emerging issues in this field of ICT. So straight from our introduction, you will allow me to mention this. Due to the nature of the time that we have, kind of the unit that we have, and again, the much theories that we have to come across, I usually use a different approach. It's very simple. We just present ourselves to class. You will be seated. I will be here moderating in terms of taking you step by step. Of course, I know how to make it brief so that we can achieve the target. But at the end of each topic, we have two key requirements. I must attempt as many as possible questions with answers. And then again, we must get the soft copy of the notes, go through them, just summarize for yourself, and then of course, you will be somehow boosting your understanding. That is to tell you, I've seen instances whereby people will relax. They will be just relaxing because they know towards the end, maybe there will be time for questions and answers. But let me caution you in advance. The time for questions and answers begins the moment we start our introduction. So even now we can take questions. We can do or we can tackle questions. But how do we tackle the questions? We must peruse through the concept, then we do the questions. I don't ask you to do or to tackle them. There is no exam here. I don't have a physical contact with you to ask questions. I mean, to point you and you know. But here we just have to cooperate. We just have to participate where we can. So from day one, you have to get in touch with the college admin. He or she has to share with you a certain link. And that link has all the past papers in terms of the questions. The only thing they don't have is the answers. So that link, when you get it, it has all the sittings, all the levels, and all the kind of exams as far as KASNEB is concerned. So for your section, you will only, once you log in, you jump into your level, look for ICT past papers. You will find a couple of them. And again, because ICT is just as started like 1.5 years ago, what else are we supposed to do? We need also to peruse through the past papers that were there for the old syllabus, that is the MIS. Because as I've said, some topics are still the same. And even as I can advise, those old syllabus questions were very strong and they used to be quite a deal. I don't mean that the recent ones are shallow, but it is good to know both sides of the story. And again, because of time, why don't we start? Already we've set our rules. We've said here we will work with discipline in attendance in terms of active participation and also taking care of our self-time to study, self-time to revisit, self-time to just go through the soft copies. Good enough you have smartphones. So what will you be doing? Once you get that piece of soft copy notes, all you need is to download it. Again, people tend to forget that you need to download it, keep it safely in your device. They will wait until the group is so much congested. There is so much content that has been shared there, and then they will struggle on their own to find the notes. So save from day one, keep them aside. When you board your vehicle or maybe you are commuting, within these cities where the traffic is so huge, you can use that time, just open it, go through the notes. At least have enough time with the notes. So from introduction, let's understand the field of ICT. It is simply what we are calling technology. But what is this technology in itself? Technology is a project or a field which simply tries to bring up the ideas of integration. That integration is simply the perspective or the field of combination. In terms of its building blocks, it has integrated the communication process, which involves what? Just receiving message or sharing message, or just a reception of one piece of information from a communicating point to an endpoint or to a destination. So with that capability, it is picking the communication and integrating it with what? The telecommunications. And then at the end of the day, it is delivering a one wholesome unit which enables you as a user to, number one, to create, to collect, to manipulate, to process, to send. You can say dissemination, to transmit. You can use any other word. And at the end of the day, it ensures there is the achievability of information sharing. So we can simply look at it and say, ICT is simply an extensive word which carries together the information and communication through telecommunication systems to deliver information. The rest of the processes there, we are just simply narrating what takes place for the information to be ready. In this scenario, there are two things we need to understand. The materials that are building up the telecommunication system. Forget about the equipment. We must have this thing we are calling data. In our concept, data is anything that is unprocessed. Unprocessed figure, I can call it unprocessed facts. I can call it unprocessed materials, as simple as that. We don't want to broaden the concept of what is data. But it is anything that is unprocessed. If it's raw materials, like the way we want to make this piece of a garment, we will have different types of inputs as far as this one item is needed for it to be a product. So we will have, including the small ones, the one we can't see, they will be separate as raw materials. So in this nature, they will need to be processed. So we will end up having an intermediate sort of action that we call processes. In short, processes, these are the transformations that have to be taking place. These are the manipulations that have to be taking place to convert the what we are calling data to something else. And then the end result of this whole thing is about obtaining information. We simply say information, this is now has to do with what we are calling the processed figures. We can call them facts, or we can call them the end products. And then there comes in another scenario whereby somebody will talk about the inputs. But I will also emphasize on these ones when we are doing or we are tackling the softwares and so forth. So the inputs, sometimes they tend to go back to this. And then we have the outputs. Sometimes they tend to borrow from this one. But either way, let's have it to that point. So we have our inputs, we have our outputs, we have our data, we have our processes. Then let's now understand the objective. What is the objective of this ICT? The objectives of ICT is to enable 5 key functions, or we can simply say ICT has 5 key objectives. Objective number 1 of ICT is to capture data. I've already explained what is data. So it has an objective of capturing data. That is number 1. Capturing data means reception or receiving anything in form of unprocessed materials, figures, or facts. They are being assembled. They are being collected through various, scenarios, or through various processes. Then, after capturing the data, ICT has objective number 2, which is to process the data, processing data. Objective number 1 is capturing data. Objective number 2 is processing data. Simply transforming the collected data into an end product, processing. We have said also processing is the same as transformation. Objective number 3, after we have now transformed our data into end results like products, finished goods, or the information, we have to make sure it has a storage. So number 3, objective of ICT is data storage, storage of information. Sorry, don't use data there. Storage of information. Storage means at that point, we have databases within ICT systems that are capable of storing volumes and volumes of finished products, finished goods, finished items, or the information itself. Then, if it has kept it safely, some point when sometimes you log into your machine, you want to retrieve a previous file or document you are working with. That is the objective number 4 for ICT, is information retrieval. Information retrieval. As long as it is somewhere in a storage, we can always come next day and pull it out and continue our work. That is objective of ICT. Then we have number 5. If we are not retrieving, then we can also share. That is objective number 5, whereby ICT plays a major role in disseminating information, dissemination of information. This is simply the distribution, the sharing, what you are actually doing with the online systems or the platforms like the Twitter, the WhatsApp, all those. You always log in and then you start sharing. That is a function. That is a role of ICT. That is an objective of technology, to make sure users are able to distribute and share as much as possible the information that is within the technology itself. So how many objectives? 5. We have to capture, we have to process, we have to store, we have to retrieve, and then we can disseminate, or we can distribute. If you forget the word dissemination, then you remember we have to distribute. Let's look at the qualities of ICT, because these are some of the basic things that we should understand. Characteristics of ICT, the nature of ICT. How is it? Number 1, I would go straight forward and say ICT is a field of study which requires long-term planning. Number 1, ICT is a field which requires long-term planning. This, I would support it and simply say, technology allows you to break down the many structures into small modules. And again, because of its huge investment, huge cost, it requires you to have a long-term plan in place. I can also break it down in another scenario whereby ICT is long-term planning in the sense that the development of a meaningful project takes time. If you invest in technology, it will take you time to deliver the art or the kind of quality that you want or that you target. Because again, of its nature of complexity, it requires you to take time in planning. And again, what makes this consumption of time is the integration that we are doing with the system. They have to intertwine, they have to intermarry, in quotes, properly for them to function. So it takes time. It's like you are forcing structures to fall into place smoothly. So you have to keep on aligning and realigning them. So it's a long-term sort of field and which requires also long-term planning. Number two, the nature of ICT is also based on a system approach. We have number one, long-term planning. Then we have number two, it is based on a system approach. System approach. Let me explain this point. System approach. ICT is based on a system approach. That is to say, taking into consideration the comprehensive viewing of ICT looks like it is built up of subsystems. I would want to break it down this way. If you take your mobile phone or your smartphone, you will find that the part that you are swiping or the smart screen, it is an element or a component that has been planted on another piece of document, item, or another component. So at the end of the day, what has put up a single device is interlinked or combining of different parts, whether they are hardwares, whether they are softwares. For this forum to be the way it is, it's supported by various softwares. It's not only one. There are various softwares which are supporting this forum to be the way it is. So technology-wise, these are the subsystems holding up on one another or on each other to form or to deliver one particular product. Right? So those modules or those subsystems have to attach to one another to deliver a complete umbrella of a system. At the end of the day, the approach, the thinking to approach ICT will be if there were no subsystems to hold on each other or to each other, no particular technology would have been delivered. So that way, we simply view or we simply characterize ICT as a field based on system approaches, meaning that complex one type of a technology has to be supported by subsystems. And what is this word system we are using over and over? I will define it now using some simpler terms. When we shall be looking at ISE, we shall now understand in terms of the definitions, what it takes to have a word like system. When we look at systems, we give it an umbrella or a unique identification as an highly interlinked, interdependent. We have used the word highly interlinked, interdependent, meaning there are a lot of smaller systems. There are a lot of smaller modules, small programs that have been building themselves by placing them at a level where they are interlinked with one another, so that at the end of the day, they can deliver. And in the process of interlinking, they are also interdependent. And for them to exist, they are just doing that to deliver a common goal. So we simply quote system and say, it is made up of highly interlinked, interdependent modules that come up together to achieve a certain objective. They are building, or they are made up of highly interdependent, interlinked modules that are existing to fulfill a purpose. Others say they are existing to achieve an objective. And at the end of the day, the understanding should be these building programs have a certain goal to deliver. Characteristic of ICT number 3. ICT is need-based, and I will explain. What is a need? Somebody told me a need is a want, and I said yes. So when we look at ICT, it is need-based. Need-based, these are the requirements of the different users of information systems. Today, if we were to go to shopping, maybe we want to pick smartphones. Every person will be highlighting, or they will be pointing at a particular device of their own interest. At that particular moment, what is guiding you? It is the user requirements. What do you need that device for? For example, when I was visiting this class, I knew I will have to put forward some short notes for us to increase our levels of comprehension. So I knew very well I will need something like this. This is a device, or it's an item. So what forced me to look for this? It's because I have a need. What will force you to go for technology is because you have a requirement to fulfill. So simply say this, ICT is need-based, and it is designed based on someone's or user's requirements at different scenarios, at different perspectives, at different levels. You can also say, in organizations, ICT is need-based. For instance, different organizations will design their technology to fit that which they are doing inside that organization. If it's a manufacturing plant, the nature of ICT there will be designed to ensure they are able to manufacture or to produce goods, right? If your need is on services or to provide services, you will ensure that your ICT has been designed to deliver what? Services to your clients, to your customers. So that is ICT, we figure it out as having a characteristic of need-based. Today, my needs for ICT will not be the same as my needs in the next like 15 or 30 years. There are some levels or there are some ages where you are not able to interact with technology. At that point, also your need for ICT will have changed, or will have, will have advanced in terms of what you are doing or at what scenario you are. Number D, ICT as a quality or is integrated. ICT and the portion that we normally have to integrate it. Integrated. From the word go, let's mention this. We always move with the emerging issues along the various topics. So in this topic, we are talking about integrations, integrated, here and there. But the key word is, the emerging issue is on integrations. Integration. And I will explain it as we move on. Already I've told you to integrate is to combine. I will also advance that meaning to something else. But at the moment, ICT has a nature or a characteristic that it is integrated. Integration means looking at it again from an overall perspective. It has been built up by using different parts. If there are hardware, there have to be different components. If they are hardware, they have to be different components. If also they have to be softwares, they have to be different programs that are joining together to produce or to deliver a common goal. So from that joining of various types of hardware, various types of programs, we get the characteristic that ICT has to be integrated. It has to be formed from combined scenarios, interlinked scenarios, just like that. At E, we will say ICT is future-oriented. The developers, the scientists, the engineers of technology have this in their mind, that where we are at the moment, it is not the end of ICT, but we are there to model it to always meet, advance, and stay there in the future. So the approach of coming up with technology is not to satisfy the current requirements. It is to be able to cover the scenario at the moment and even at in the near future or in the long future. So ICT is future-oriented. That's why you can see this year we have this sort of technology, or in this season there are some of the thriving technologies. In a couple of years to come, they will not be there. They will have been replaced with more advanced or better systems. Why? Because the developers, the innovators of technology have the notion that we are in ICT and ICT is future-oriented. Number next, ICT shares a common data scenario, or it is built up of data flowing throughout. It is developed with an inclusion of ensuring that we can seamlessly have a continuous flow of data. Just like the way we do systems transformations, just like the way we do the systems changeovers, you will find that in one way or the other, we are borrowing files from existing scenarios, not borrowing as such, but we are carrying forward. We only modify. We only make sure we perfect it. So in common data flow, it is a scenario that ensures, apart from avoiding duplication or carrying on repeatedly sort of data, we can be able to import or to have just same function, or rather we simplify it. So from this one version of system to the next version of system, we shall still be using the same data. But the only thing is new is the simplification. Those who have quite interacted with information systems, especially at functional levels, and maybe you are used to scenarios whereby you are working with different types of information system. The only thing changes is the program version, for example. But the fact that you are working with the data, you will find that you are almost carrying on similar processes, similar functions. The only thing you can't do is to duplicate, because you will be repeating. So ICT is built and developed on a concept of common data flow. There is another characteristic of ICT. Development is always based on subsystems concept. ICT is developed on what we are calling subsystems concept. I've already repeated explaining this, that the fact that we have one particular function or one particular kind of umbrella we are calling a system, it needs to be developed through linking, through the integration of smaller versions of that particular system, or smaller versions of different modules here and there. So the more we link them up, we are forming something. It's like when you are building a house, you have to start somewhere. with a different style, then it has to advance. You keep on piling blocks, one on top of the other. That way, your structure is coming up. The same way, ICT, the structure to be complete the way it is, for you to enjoy that system you have there, it has to be developed through linking of different modules. The word module, the word system, they are one at the same time. The word program, the word software, it is also applied to the same scenarios, etc. I want you to add like 3, at least I've given you around 6 or 7. You can make them 3 more to make them 10. That's how we do it. Now let's branch to introduction in terms of the computer itself. I will just start breaking down computer into what we have in terms of hardware. Distinction in terms of the computer hardware. Anything that is tangible for an information system, for a computer, for a system. I know I'm confusing you now. I've used the word information system, I've used the word system, I've used the word computer. Don't worry, those are just terms. They only apply in different concepts. But when we look at hardware, we look at the physical representation or presentation of all ICT components. I've used the word physical, meaning or implying that these are the visible, tangible components that when assembled, when put together, they are going to form for us a complete set of a system. Your syllabus narrows down and calls it computer hardware. So we will simply define it and say, computer hardware, these are representation of all the physical and tangible components of a machine, stroke, a computer. Tangible, physical, you can touch, you can see. These components, they are split into various sections. They are split into various types of devices. To remember in future, we are going to illustrate, okay? We are going to illustrate this very simple, just like this. I'm using triangles to make our work easier in terms of reminding or in terms of comprehension. When we illustrate like that, it's very easy because sometimes you can be absent-minded, but you will remember at some point, the moderator was drawing some sort of rectangles. So we just have to key in the components that are building up what we have in terms of a computer hardware. And I just label them. Then once we are done with the labeling, what we'll do, we will simply go through this whole thing, running out of ink. So with that illustration, sometimes we use it to remind ourselves. Also, it's also good to break the model in this theory sort of discussion. So these computer hardware, we have said they are the tangible ones. On this far left, we have input devices as a bracket. Then these input devices, they are showing you an arrow that is forward. That's to tell you, they have to get some of the collected materials into the system. Now, this whole part of the system is the most important one. because this is where we have much of the processing taking place. We simply call it the CPU. CPU has 3 key units or sub-units or subsystems that really are vital. The first one is the central unit, followed by the arithmetic logic unit. Then we have the memory. And mind you, this is the primary memory, or we call it the main memory. Then on the top, we have an illustration to show there is need for communication. So we have communicating devices. There will be need for the objective number 4, I think number 3, storage devices to store information. Then now we have the output devices. There we have an objective number 5 to disseminate information. So looking at the hardwares, we can simply fulfill the objectives, which is to collect information, to process information, to store information, to retrieve information, to disseminate information. As simple as that. So if today you are to tackle the input devices, what will be included in that category, or what would you include in terms of the input devices? Input devices we are going to collect together, or we are going to put together all the tangible components of a system that can ensure at least we are able to pull out information, data from various, sources ready for input or ready for feeding into the system. Input devices, we have various types of input devices. We have categories that can key in information by typing. The way we have a keyboard, that is a device which ensures that you deliver data to the system by way of typing. We have others which cannot type, but they can point. You can point like this. And then when they are pointing, they are also delivering data into a system. A good example, we have the mouse. That mouse always has a pointer, or that which you call the cursor. Their work is to point, and then they input information. Then we have those ones cannot type, they cannot write, they cannot point, but they can transform, they can translate data that is in a particular scenario directly to the system for reading. We call them the scanning devices. So their work is to ensure they scan data into a system. So these examples of input devices, just put there as many as you can. Starting with the keyboard, you go to the mouse, you go to the likes of the camera, they capture image, they translate it to a system. You can go to all the types of scanners. You have the optical scanners. Those use the principles of light to input information. You can go to the mark readers, the ones that are able to sense marks on special documents. Also put there the ink character type of readers or the scanners, which use the principles of magnetism to smell, to detect characters on a document, and then they will read. We also have microphones. Those one cannot do either of the three. They can't type, they can't point, they can't scan, but you can have voice data being recorded and transmitted into a system microphone. Those who like playing games and the PlayStations, you have special types of controllers. You can use them there. We have the likes of game pads, those are input devices. We have the joysticks. We have the trackballs, especially with the old types of mouse into those old types of machines. etc. Those are input devices to make sure that they are able to collect and deliver data into an information system, entering data, simply as that. Then, when it comes to this processor, the CPU is also the processor. Another name for the central processing unit is simply the processor. we distinguish it into three categories or into three parts. We have the central unit. The central unit, very integral and very crucial in terms of receiving instructions, very crucial in terms of ensuring that a lot of processing are taking place within this kind of a system. While we are here, I will point like this. I will just put a pointer and I will be telling you we have a reminder with topic 2. Something will be very crucial for us here when we will be tackling the operating system within this particular sort of a unit. But for now, let's carry on to understand the three. Then we have the second one, the arithmetic logic unit. First of all, the central unit, this is the apartment. Let's call it apartment. This is the location where now a lot of processes are taking place. That's why you can hear it is being called central, meaning everything has to pass through the central location. Then we have the arithmetic logic and whatever unit. That particular segment, its work is to pick all the items, all the instructions that are resident in the central unit and manipulate them to the requirement of the user. In short, this is where the arithmetic has to take place, the calculations have to take place, and any other logic operations of our data before it becomes or it transforms to information. That is to say, at this particular point, we can say there is a very active brain of the machine, making sure it is calculating our data. If you give it an instruction, 2 plus 2, it is just questioning this part, what is 2 plus 2? What is 2 plus 2? And then it is asking itself and doing it for ourselves. 2 plus 2 is equals 4. This is the department that tackles all your data manipulation. Then we have the memory. I've stated here the main memory. That is to say, this is the memory that is resident inside the machine itself. This memory is divided into two. We have the ROM, we have the RAM. Primary memory, or the main memory, is divided into two. There are other memories, of course, resident in the motherboard or in this central unit. But they have no emphasis the same as the same way these two have, because these two are crucial. The primary memory without ROM, without RAM, cannot achieve its its functionality. That is to say, number one, we have a read-only type of a memory inside the CPU. Read-only. Read-only. What does it does it ring a bell to our minds? Yes, it should, because it is instructing you to read only. If I tell you touch only, what will you do? You will simply touch and nothing else. So this particular type of a memory is read-only type of a memory. When we will be doing operating system and the booting process of a machine, we will now recap on the ROM again, on what it does. But for now, have to mention this. ROM is very crucial, and it allows the machine or the OS to read the startup instructions of a machine, the booting instructions of a computer. It has most of the permanent files for a system. Permanent means unchangeable. So it is for reading. It is read by the system, not by you, the user. So what happens? When you are trying many things with the system, with the machine, there is a part of the memory that has to control. That it's like a nerve, not as a nerve, but it's like a brain part of a machine that has to be there for the system to be live. Okay. Again, this read-only memory, I said it contains permanent instructions for the running purpose of the machine. It is also non-volatile. Non-volatile means when the power is off, even if it is instantly, it will always remain permanent. The data is permanent. It doesn't get interrupted by instances of power loss. So whenever there is no power, our ROM will remain intact with its information. So it is non-volatile. It cannot lose data. It cannot lose content when there is no power. So when we compare it to RAM, let's fill the name. It is random access memory. Random access memory. Random accessible, meaning it is easy or it is allowing new users to access the content, to read it, to delete it, to amend it, to modify it, to save it. But one key disadvantage, it is volatile type of a memory. So this particular sort of a memory, I won't say it is disadvantageous, but it is the one which makes the main memory or the primary memory to hold instructions temporarily. Mark you from today, main memory cannot be a reliable backup in terms of information storage. Primary memory is not reliable in terms of data handling. The moment power goes off, it will also lose the instruction, lose the data, lose the information. Reason because it is being influenced and controlled by RAM, which is only for accessing information. And again, it is designed with the nature of losing information immediately there is no power supply. So RAM is volatile, can lose information or the data once there is no power supply. And due to that nature of the primary memory, we will need a reliable source of storage. And that's where we have storage devices. Storage devices, we also call them the secondary storage memory. Storage devices, we are also calling them the auxiliary storage sort of devices. That is any form of a storage medium that can form backup for the main memory. A good example when it comes to storage device or the secondary storage device is the hard disk or the hard drive. It is a secondary lot in terms of storage. Hard drive, we have internal hard drives that are resident inside the CPU or else housed by the central unit. And we also have hard drives that are portable, that are, they are external, they are found outside the system. They are found outside the machine. And then in terms of other storage devices, we can even quote the current technology where we have the optical sort of devices and the flash drives for the storage purposes. Then, when all this is done, you need to communicate. There is need for communicating to various components within a system or within a computer. So we will have what we call the communicating devices or communication devices. Their work is to pick instructions from one part, deliver them to another part, or to ensure there is an overall integration of exchanging the processes or the jobs that has to be done or the execution that needs to be done by different devices, within the computer. And a good part of these communicating devices, we have the cases of modems. A modem is a good example when we are looking at communicating devices. Why? Because its work is to ensure there is overall transmission of signals in that computer. Modem stands for modulation, demodulation. Later on, when we shall be tackling deeper and deeper in terms of networking, we shall also come across the modem again, and then we will be able to understand how it modulates and how it can be able to demodulate signals from one scenario to the other. Of course, you know, nowadays, the modems of majority of the machines that we have, they are inbuilt. We no longer have the portable modems or the external modems. So mostly it's an inbuilt device or a component in terms of the hardwares. Their work is to convert or pick analog signals, convert them into digital signals and vice versa. That's what we mean by modulation and demodulation. Then we have at the far end of the hardwares, we have the output devices. Output devices, it is any portable, any tangible, any physical device that enables you as a user to access the information from a system, or it enables you to access the end products of an information system, or else you will need them to receive the feedback from the machine itself. A good example, with our smartphones, they have screens. The smart screen or the touch screen, that is an output device. If you are dealing with a desktop, you have a monitor. We moved from different generations of monitors, from where we had the CRT, that is the cathode ray tube sort of device, monitors. We had the LED, that is LED type of monitors, light emitting diodes type of monitors, to where now we are advanced, we have the sort of LCDs, liquid crystal displays, etc. That is simply an output device. It makes sure you are able to access your output, which is the information, in terms of a soft copy. It gives you a soft copy of your output in terms of the information. We also have the speakers. As in this machine, I can see speakers. Those are output devices. For bigger events, we have projectors. Those are still output devices. We also have printers, or the machines that are able to give us the hard copy of our information from the system. With our smartphones, we usually have the smaller headphones or the headsets. Those are still output devices. You can add more in terms of all the categories. And by doing so, we shall have been able to at least have an understanding of what are the hardwares of a computer. Hardwares of a computer. To that point, do we have questions? Any question? Any question? Any concern? We can have suggestions as far as the intro part of ICT is concerned. And I can say, up to that point, that is the easiest, as far as ICT is concerned, that is the easiest bit that we could ever get. Any question, concern, remark, you can type, you can unmute yourself, because we are almost now coming to the end of our session. For today being the first day, I don't want to scare you away. We have to spare ourselves in terms of questions. We have this notion whereby people tend to get scared. The very first day there are questions, but I told you the questions are not yours. They are ours. They are ours, and I'm here to assist you as much as possible. So if no question, no concern, no comment, we can stop it at that point. At least we've had an intro to ourselves, to ICT, and that served us as the ice-breaking session of this forum. Thanks for your time. Thanks for participating. You can have yourself a good night.